There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
Let me drive. I will make a fool out of you.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy, lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up? Are you ready to make more money in 1 year than your father made in his whole life? Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
Oh, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? Come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up a show.
Fine. Then let's race.
Hi, I'm Tom Ingram and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Jacques Villeneuve, you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Bruno Senna, you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Chris Hoy and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Landon Norris and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hello everybody, once again from PF International and Trent Valley Kart Club here at the beautiful Lincolnshire countryside. We are here once again for the Motorsport UK British Kart Championships. This time it is for the TKM, Honda, and for the one and only time on the Motorsport UK paddock this year, Bambino classes. And we are in time qualifying already on this very blustery day, as Winnie the Pooh would have called it. And it's very, very difficult for the drivers to cope with the bitter cold and very wet and blustery conditions. Jake Sanson here on the main starting straight at PF International, and we are in the midst of the Bambino time qualifying session. Max Mason currently the fastest on a 1:29.12 from Jacob Davis and Harry Freeman. Fletcher Jameson and Henry Carter in the top six. Charlie Berry just popping up into second place now, and with just a little over 2 minutes of the time qualifying session in this Bambino session, it is already a very busy day at the office for the youngsters. Obviously, these Bambino drivers at Motorsport UK level must have done a minimum of 6 time trial sessions as beginners in the sport. It is a very treacherous form of racing at this level at these conditions as well, considering how cloudy and overcast it is overhead here at PF International. But we are trackside, live, and we are also on Downforce Radio, broadcasting around the world for time qualifying for the return to the action tomorrow for the repechage and finals. It's going to be a really busy day in the office in qualifying, and already we have a very closely competitive field with Harry Freeman at the top spot, just set a 1:28.50. 2 practice sessions prior to this in qualifying, and in order to get accustomed to the circuit, the drivers are obviously learning on the job, and you might well hear the rattling going on in the background behind me if you're listening via the radio stream. And even if you're on trackside, you'll hear it, of course, because the clanking of metal against the fierce, strong winds is a massive contrast to what we saw 2 weeks ago. We saw cold 2 weeks ago when we were here for the IATA classes, but the wind was nowhere near as strong as this, and we haven't had as much heavy rain as we have had over the course of the day here this weekend, but it is very tricky. So, Max Mason is at the top spot at the moment on a 1:28.13, with Harry Freeman in second position ahead of Fletcher Jameson, Jesse Phillips, Charlie Berry and Ewan Thompson ahead of Henry Carter, Jacob Davis and Levi Davison, with Finley Lawson and Jensen Hookie. Up to the top 10 now comes Rio Licata. So Rio Licata has come up to 5th position. So Max Mason is at the top spot with a few seconds remaining from Harry Freeman, Fletcher Jameson, Jesse Phillips, Rio Licata, Charlie Berry, Ewan Thompson, Henry Carter, Jacob Davis and Evie Davidson, Finley Lawson and Jensen Hookie, Noah Baglin and Aston Brown, then Hallie Findlater, Oscar Askell Tucker, Archie Beard, Katie Donaldson, and the one driver who's pulled off into the pits already, that's Tyler O'Neill. In fact, no, Tyler O'Neill's kart has come to a stop at the first corner and is being reeled in. The checkered flag flies. Last chance for a quick lap from the Bambinos. And obviously, they will want to get the pole position. The person who gets through will start the heats from the front of the grid. Across the line as the checkered flag falls is going to be the 88. And that is Jacob Davis, who pops up into 4th place on a 1:29.02. Good lap there from Davis. Across the line comes the 35 of Jensen Hookie to go into the top 10. Will he remain there? Tough to tell, but the 71, Max Mason, does not improve on his previous lap. Some good laps, though, from Evie Davidson and Archie Beard as Noah Baglin pops himself into the top 10 on a 1:29.99. Charlie Very and Henry Carter come up to the top 5. It's now on Harry Freeman. Can Freeman hit the top spot? The 78 coming down the main straight in a couple of seconds' time. Ewan Thompson breaks into the top 10 in 7th position. Here comes Harry Freeman. Jesse Phillips has gone second on a 1:28.32. Can Freeman get to the top spot? Not quite. A 1:28.50. And incredibly, the top 9 drivers in the field are covered by less than a second. A very close battle in Bambino's this weekend. He is set to be coming on strong. Max Mason on the top spot with a 1:28.13 from time qualifying in front of Jesse Phillips and Harry Freeman. Then Fletcher Jameson and Charlie Very. From Henry Carter and Ewan Thompson, Jacob Davis is 8th in front of Rio Licata, and in 10th place, Noah Baglin. And then it's Jensen Hookie from Evie Davidson, Finley Lawson and Aston Brown, Hallie Findlater, Oscar Askell-Tucker, Archie Beard, Katie Donaldson, and after a problem in the qualifying session, Tyler O'Neill unfortunately finds himself down at the back of the field, but he will have plenty of overtaking to come over the course of the heats and the finals tomorrow. So hopefully it's going to be a really exciting battle in the Karting UK Bambino Championship. Brand new venture, of course, for the 2019 season, with Karting's British Championships being taken in-house by Motorsport UK for the 2019 season. And over the first 2 weekends of the 2019 campaign, where we saw the Rotaxes battle in the final weekend of March 4 weeks ago, and then a fortnight ago we were here for the IAMIC classes, we've seen some fantastic race action, and we're set to again for the TKM and Honda classes, joined this weekend alone by the Bambino Championship, as well as they have a very busy program through the course of the season. And that's the starting point for anybody to want to get into British karting at that level, at that sort of age. The Bambino Championship really is a good place to look at because there are plenty of schemes and obviously plenty of opportunities for drivers of age to have a look at Bambinos. In the Bambino class, you obviously have a very tough field of drivers. They're designed specifically for 6 to 8 year olds experiencing the sport of karting, and they use a kart, of course, that is a correct size for their height and weight. It uses the 50cc Coma engine, and they only have one specification of tyre, which is the all-weather LeConte tyre, and that means that no matter whether it's wet or dry, and it is drying out the circuit here over the course of the day, you only need one type of tyre for the whole season. And of course, you can't race in the Karting UK Bambino Championship unless you have done 6 time trial events before you can go racing. You must have 6 that you have done before. So obviously it is a really exciting battle, and you're So the checkered flag is coming out now for Junior TKM time qualifying after a very competitive session, and it's going to be Dominic Roberts who holds on unless the group of drivers coming through can improve on their times. Checkered flag is skyward at the moment as we prepare for the races to come through, and there is a nice long queue of about 5 or 6 of them coming through out of the final turns. Roberts on pole for the moment from Stuart Richardson. Zach Oates, Louis Harvey and Harvey Cole. Is it going to change? Well, the top spot is going to remain Dominic Roberts at the moment unless Oliver Stewart can go faster still. He can't. So Roberts is going to remain on the top spot with a time of 1:02.33. Nobody making an improvement in their final laps then up in the top spots. And that means that Dominic Roberts has the pole position in front of Oliver Stewart, Oliver Richardson and Zach Oates, with Louis Harvey and Harvey Cole in the top 6. From Morgan Kidd, Will Howells, Harry Wainwright and Spencer Lane in the top 10. Then it is Kian Bennett and Bradley Beavers in front of Charlie Flynn and Benjamin Cox. Finley Saunders and Daniel Gazal from Tom Johnson in 17th place. And then, of course, we had Zach Taylor, who did not get the best of laps in the end due to a mechanical problem. And also in trouble was Dale Whittaker, who unfortunately didn't set a time at all, although he was on his first flying lap when he pulled off the circuit. So a real shame for Dale Whittaker, but we'll see more from him later, no doubt. So the Junior TKM field is partially set, because in this group it is Dominic Roberts in front of Oliver Stewart, Oliver Richardson, Zach Oates, Louis Harvey and Harvey Cole in the top 6. Then Morgan Kidd, Will Howells, Harry Wainwright, Spencer Lane, Kian Bennett and Bradley Beavers in front of Charlie Flynn and Benjamin Cox. Finley Saunders 15th from Daniel Gazal, Tom Johnson, Zach Taylor and Dale Whittaker. And in terms of the competition of the field, the top 13 drivers are covered by less than a second. So it's a really exciting battle that starts the Junior TKM field off into the distance. And we're really excited to see how this battle is going to continue through the course of the weekend. But the second group is set to come out on circuit very quickly indeed after theirs, after the previous group. And this is where we'll get a lot more of the big names from Junior TKM coming out onto the circuit. And that is, unfortunately, the kart of Dale Whittaker being wheeled in. The 22. Oh, hang on. I think that might actually be Zach Taylor thinking about it. Yes, it is. It's Zach Taylor who had a mechanical flag pulled on him for what was clearly an exhaust issue as he was making an awful lot of noise. Speaking of an awful lot of noise, we're getting a real pounding in our commentary box and timekeeping lap scoring positions here by the wind. It's an absolute onslaught at the moment on the home straight as gale force winds are rocking the circuit big style here at PF International. And I have to say, I feel for all of the marshals out there doing a fantastic job and putting in a really exciting weekend for us, and to keep, of course, everybody safe and sound. And I'm very glad to say I now know a little bit about what it takes to be a marshal in the world of the British Kart Championships. I did dally a little bit into the world on the Friday of the meeting 2 weeks ago, and I can tell you it really was very tough indeed. And I have to say, all the drivers in the world of karting should do marshalling at least once, and so should all of the mechanics, because you don't get an appreciation of what these guys actually do until you have done so, and I definitely recommend it. The green flag is about to fly, and it does so now for the second time qualifying session for Junior TKM, and that means that we're going to have the likes of Conor Kearney, who is the, on paper, championship favourite, as he comes out onto the circuit. I say on paper he's the favourite because, of course, he is the 5th seed for the 2019 season, and that is the lowest seed we have in the season. Oh, looks like a very wayward Matt Marsh going out of the pits by the look of it, and very nearly losing the kart altogether, just trying to get the tyres warmed up. It is very slippery offline still, and the drivers are obviously wanting to get up to speed pretty quickly. But the battle is obviously very joined in this category, and Junior TKM is always very ultra competitive, so you never quite know where you stand with it until you're actually pounding around the circuit, putting in the fast laps. So a bit difficult, a bit tricky, but a really difficult start to the session for the 99 of Zach Taylor. A real shame for him, as obviously he has now got to endure the ignominy of starting his first race of the day from the back of the grid with a problem with his kart, as he watches the second qualifying group in a lot of frustration and despair, unfortunately. Meanwhile, though, out on the circuit, Conor Kearney is going through and will set the first flying lap of the session. Now, as well as him in the race, in this second group, we've also got the likes of Charlie Webb and Lewis Mackey from Jensen Davis and Harry Yardley Rose. Ben Higgins, who's been very strong in the winter season. Jack Saunders, James Barty, who was very fast earlier on today. Then you've also got Jack Nicholson, who's been a staunch club racer, and this year he's really pushing for the national championship. Then it is going to be Joe Harrison and Harvey Roth from Max Davies and Dominic Kilmister. Scott Smith is a top challenger this season, as well as Theo Tibbetts, Josh Raystrick, Jacob Hodgkiss, and Matt Marsh, who we saw sliding around at the end of the first session. So at the end of the first lap out of the pits, I should say. He came out of the pits, started warming up the tyres, and then the back end stepped out big time. Manages to save it, but that still doesn't stop him from going a little further down the queue. So Connor Kearney is going to come through and complete his flying lap, but it's not going to be the fastest lap out there thus far, because Charlie Webb has overtaken him on this flying lap, and Connor Kearney is still putting himself into a position to grab an ultimate tow as Jack Saunders hits the front. In their first flying laps, it is Jack Saunders who goes to the top of the timesheets in front of James Barty and Harvey Roth in the top three, with Max Davies and Jack Nicholson in the top five from Harry Yardley Rose, Scott Smith, Joe Harrison, Dominic Kilmister, and Ben Watson in the top 10. And then it is Matt Marsh in front of Ben Higgins, and then Charlie Webb, Lewis Mackay, Jensen Davis, Jacob Hodgkiss, and Josh Raystrick in front of Theo Tibbetts. And the man at the very back is actually Connor Kearney at the moment, but that is because he hasn't started his full flying lap yet. You can expect that when he does, he is going to be bidding for not just pole position in this time class, but overall in the Junior TKM category. So far, so good for Dominic Roberts. His time from the previous session still stands of 1:02.3. We're over 1.2 seconds off that pace at the moment, but that is only because we've only done one flying lap. So in the next 2.5 minutes, we'll do a few more, as up to third goes Connor Kearney, but now the rest of the pack flies through, and we're already into the 1:02.3s. Goodness me! We have gone straight up to the sharp end immediately as James Barty sets the same time to the 100th of a second as Oliver Stewart, and there was only 300ths of a second between those two. So with over 2 minutes to go, this looks like being the faster time group without any stretch of imagination. So these guys are going to be the ones who'll get the ultimate pace. So you would say then on paper that whoever gets pole position from this time group is likely to be overall pole position in the Junior TKM category. And there's plenty of drivers who can get there. At the moment, it's James Barty ahead of Jack Nicholson, Harry Yardley Rose, Jensen Davis, Jack Saunders and Scott Smith, from Joe Harrison, Harvey Roth, Lewis Mackay and Dominic Kilmister. But we're all forgetting that Connor Kearney in 17th position has yet to pull out the big guns. And when he does, as he comes down the straight now, he is going to be a contender for pole position. Does he go fastest? He goes fourth quickest for the moment, but there's still time to find. Barty and Nicholson improve on their times, and that's a 1:02.17 for James Barty. That is ultimate pole position at this moment in time. And he's still got a massive advantage over Jack Nicholson, nearly 0.3 of a second over him, with Harry Yardley Rose in third from Dominic Kilmister, then Jensen Davis in fifth. Connor Kearney slips to sixth position. Then it's Scott Smith from Lewis Mackay, Ben Higgins and Joe Harrison. Then Saunders, Roth, Davies, Raystrick, Webb, Marsh, Watson, Tibbetts and Jacob Hodgkiss. And the gap between them all is just 1.8 seconds. So 5 of the drivers in this session have got into the ultimate top 10. First Barty, 6th overall Nicholson, then Yardley, Rose, Kilmister and Davis are the 3 bookending the top 10 at this moment in time. But there's still plenty of opportunity for that to change. They should all get another flying lap in, and they're about to complete one. So this one could be the lap that gets us to pole position, as James Barty and the rest of the field are going to come through this time by. Lewis Mackay goes up to third position as Jack Nicholson goes second. Saunders goes third. James Barty improves again to a 1:02.07 as Nicholson puts himself second overall. Not just second in this group, he's now second overall. So it's Barty from Nicholson, Saunders, Harrison, then Ben Watson and Scott Smith, Lewis Mackay and Harry Yardley Rose. From Dominic Kilmister and Jensen Davis, Connor Kearney is down in 11th at the moment. But again, there is still time for that to change as the checkered flag is coming out this time by. They've got to get a real fast lap out of this one. But it is going to be a tricky one for Connor Kearney. He looks as though he's had some traffic trying to get past Harry Yardley Rose on this flying lap, so he may well find himself down and out of the top 10 overall, and that means that he's going to have to fight his way through the field in the races. But what a battle it's going to be. The checkered flag is in the air, and they're going to come through at the end of time qualifying for an exceptional run. But pole position is going to go the way of, will it be James Barty? So far, so good for him. He stays in the top spot. The top three have all come through and have not improved on their times. Looks as though the tyres have come up. Scott Smith has gone to third, though. He's made an improvement on his last lap. Reistrick has two, but only to 14th place. And that is all she wrote, ladies and gentlemen. James Barty, pole position in Junior TKM. He was fast this morning in the practice. Now he is pole position in time qualifying with a 1:02.07, a brilliant lap in front of Jack Nicholson. And then overall, it's Dominic Roberts and Oliver Stewart from the previous time group. Then we find Scott Smith and Jack Saunders. They've broken their way to overall row 3, third and fourth in this time group. Seventh is Richardson, who was the third fastest man in the previous time group. Then it is the likes of Joe Harrison and Ben Watson, who are 8th and 9th overall, but 5th and 6th in this time group. And overall 10th is Zach Oates from the previous time group. So behind Barty, Nicholson, Smith, Saunders, Harrison, and Watson in this qualifying group, it is Lewis Mackay in 7th from Harry Yardley Rose, Dominic Kilmister and Jensen Davis in front of Frustration for Connor Kearney and Ben Higgins. 13th is Harvey Roth, then Josh Reistrick and Max Davies from Charlie Webb, Theo Tibbetts, Matt Marsh and Jacob Hodgkiss. And that is that time group done and dusted with. So we've had the time qualifying session for Bambino. We've had the time qualifying session for Junior TKM. Next up, it is the plucky and very, very quick Honda Cadets. Their battle is set to begin for pole position.
There is no terrible way to win. There is only winning.
Let me drive. I will make a fool out of you.
Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You do it because you're driven.
I was beginning to think I'd never be anything more than a piston-happy, lead-foot punk. Then this starts to happen.
Somebody put it in your mind you gotta be perfect every time out or you're a failure. Well, forget that. Just forget it.
You ready to put away your toys and grow up? Are you ready to make more money in 1 year than your father made in his whole life? Are you ready to become a real race car driver?
When I won it was probably the last time I ever felt pure victory.
Because I'm quicker than all of you.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
I mean, hell, isn't that what we're in this for? To stare death in the face and to cheat it? I mean, come on, there's nobility in that. It's like being knights.
No pressure, nobody breathing down my back, just driving because I left it pure.
A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, it's just waiting.
I just hope when you do, that I'm there to see it.
Racing. That's the name of the game, isn't it? Win or lose, put up or shut up.
Fine. Then let's race.
Hi, I'm Tom Ingram and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Jake Villeneuve. You're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Bruno Senna. You're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Chris Hoy, and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Landon Norris, and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
So the next session on track is Honda Cadets time qualifying for Group 1, and you really do need to separate these guys into two groups because there are hundreds of them out on the circuit. The big headline for this Honda Cadet time qualifying session is the continuation of the rivalry between the top two drivers in the Honda Cadet class for 2019 thus far. They've been battling since the first weekend of the Winter Series here at Trent Valley Kart Club at BF International, ever since the beginning of January, and they've been the two class makers in the club series in both Iami and Honda Cadet, in fact. And Kier Nakamura Berta, the leading seed in this Honda Cadet Championship, is actually coming off the back of winning the final at Iami Cadet 2 weeks ago. To come into Honda Cadet, he would love to do the same thing, and has had the form of his life in recent weeks, having clinched the club titles in both categories after a very difficult final round of the championship for his main rival, Sonny Smith. But Sonny Smith is here and battling for the title right from the off in the National Championships at Honda Cadet. And as the 6th seed, Honda Cadet could well be the championship for Sonny Smith in 2019, as he battles for supremacy, but there are plenty of other drivers out there who'll want to take it away from him. In this time qualifying group, you're going to see Sonny Smith, Macy Hitter, Lewis Isling, Johan Kalachern, Stephen Duncan, Joshua Gambar, Kasper Tomilewski, Fraser Oren from Jai Lawrence, Jack Hobson, Jaden Gregg and Zach Drummond, Connor Duncan and Hayden Eldridge from Ewan Charman and Jacob Gilman, then Michael Morgan and Dylan Mackay, Jack Plant and Ollie Handley, from Sonny Mortensen and Fraser Anderson, Oscar Teuten, Henry N.G. Zederberg, Sophie Kinghorn, Anastasia Dean, Thomas Yeomans and Wesley Swain. So the drivers will battle away for position, and it is going to be a very tight battle for qualifying in Honda Cadet. We all know how competitive it can be as they fly under the Litchfield Bridge and round to the looping left-hander. They go round the banking and up through the corner. It's almost a race out there for the Honda Cadets, but of course it is only time qualifying. For the record, the first complete full lap goes the way of Jack Hobson in terms of the timesheets. He is ahead of Henry N.G. Zederberg, from Stephen Duncan and Joshua Gambar, then Oscar Teuten and Jai Lawrence from Jack Plant, Zach Drummond, Macy Hitter, and in the top 10, Ewan Charman. But that is only the first lap around the circuit, and the first lap is never the fastest. It's literally just the first complete tour around the circuit because they leave the pit and then cross the finish line as they are getting up to speed. So it's this lap that's the first flying lap, as it were, rather than that previous warm-up lap, or out lap as it's known in motorsport, of course. So the drivers are getting themselves up to speed. Fastest of all in the first sector at the moment is the Heinz Racing driver, Hayden Eldridge. Not a massive surprise, the Heinz Racing team's got a good crop of drivers this year. Fastest of all in the second split is actually Jaden Gregg now, his teammate. So we're going to see a real strong run from Heinz Racing today. Across the line, and Zach Drummond goes top, then Plant, then Smith, then Teuten. Oscar Teuten for the Project 1 East Anglia squad has gone to the top spot. Now Jaden Gregg, Hayden Eldridge and Connor Duncan have made it a Heinz Racing 1-2-3. Look at that, 1:10.41 for Gregg, and he's 0.14 of a second ahead of both his teammates, Hayden Eldridge and Connor Duncan. The same lap time, down to the 100th of a second. The battle for pole position is on. A lot of people might have thought coming into this weekend that it was effectively a two-horse race for the battle for the top spot in terms of the teams. Oliver Rowland Motorsport versus Project 1. However, the Heinz Racing team have said, hang on a minute, you've forgotten about us. We have the potential to go to the top spot as well, I think you'll find. And they are doing so. They've got amazing strength and speed and great character in that particular squad. So I have a feeling you're going to see some really good performances from the Heinz Racing drivers in 2019. They could well be championship contenders. So Jaden Gregg, Hayden Eldridge and Connor Duncan, 1, 2 and 3 for Heinz Racing at the top spot at the moment, from Oscar Teuten, Sonny Smith, Jack Plant, Ewan Charman, Zach Drummond, Jack Hobson and Henry N.G. Zederberg in the top 10. Across the line we go again, and the times tumble again. Sonny Smith to the top spot on a 109.62, ahead of Teuten, Jack Plant, Jaden Gregg, Hayden Eldridge. Connor Duncan goes faster though into 5th position. So Greg Duncan and Eldridge are still assisting each other to 4th, 5th and 6th. Then Henry N.G. Zederberg has come up to 7th place. The Synergy Race team driver doing a brilliant job there in 7th at the moment, in front of Ewan Charman and Stephen Duncan. And then rounding out the top 10 at the moment, it is Johan Kalachern. So the drivers still pounding around the circuit. The wind piercing fiercely against the drivers around this circuit. It'll really make a bit of a pounding on the main straights as well. On those back straights, you're going to find some really frightened and shivery drivers as they blast against the ailments at the moment of the wind. A couple of drivers down the order at the moment. Noticing that there's not been the fastest of laps yet from Joshua Gambar. He's a lot faster than that lap time is letting on. Same too for Ollie Handley, actually. Both of those have not really been able to get a fast lap in. Kasper Tomilewski and Fraser Oram definitely have more speed underneath them. So we might see them charging their way through with less than a minute to go. So they're starting their final flying lap. Smith, Teuten, Plant in the top 3 until Ewan Charman crosses the line. He goes 3rd. And up to 3rd comes Connor Duncan. So he goes 3rd fastest in front of Charman, Jack Plant, Hayden Eldridge and Henry N.G. Zederberg. But they've all come through. The gap between them all is 4 seconds. But Sonny Smith is 0.09 ahead of Oscar Teuten. Fastest of all in the 3rd sector, Teuten. Fastest of all in the 1st and 2nd sectors now is Sonny Smith. So he wants his final qualifying lap to be the ultimate fastest. And he's really pushing to get away from Oscar Teuten, who I have to say, his off-season was sporadic at best. But here in the British Championships, this time qualifying session appears to be his best work so far, as he is really hunting that pole position spot. He could be one of the main pretenders to the crown this season. Because if he can match Sonny Smith within a tenth of his normal pace, we are going to see some really exciting battles from them in 2019. The Honda Cadets come out of the final turn to cross the finish line. The checkered flag flies. And who is going to get pole position? At the moment, it's Smith from Toyton and Connor Duncan. Smith goes faster still on a 108.93. That improves his time. Jack Plant now comes up to second. Henry N.G. Zederberg goes fourth behind Toyton. Connor Duncan displaces him. Now Eldridge. Now Yeoman's up to sixth place in front of Jai Lawrence. Henry N.G. Zederberg slips to eighth in front of Ewan Sharman and Jack Hobson. That's your top 10 from this group. And they're separated by less than a second. Then it is Lewis Islin in 11th from Joshua Gambar. That's the pace we expected to see from him. Back into the top 12. Then Jan Kalachern in front of Ollie Handley, who also makes a big impression. Sophie Kinghorn and Jaden Gregg in front of Zach Drummond, Dylan McKay, and Anastasia Dean. Then it's Michael Morgan from Macy Hitter, Sonny Mortensen, Jacob Gilman, Stephen Duncan, Wesley Swain, Fraser Anderson, Fraser Oram, and then Kasper Tomilewski. That's the 28 drivers in this time group alone. But really great to see how competitive it is in Honda Cadet again. But Sonny Smith can't be rocked from the top spot just yet. A 108.93 is the time to beat. But if there's anybody who's going to come up to beat him, it's going to be his chief rival in cadets at the moment. And that is Kian Nakamura-Berta. Those two are never far away from each other. Even 2 weeks ago at the Miami Cadet season opener, they were very similar in terms of pace. And it was only misfortune that kept Sonny Smith from the top spot, ultimately, from the timed qualifying and the races later on in the weekend. But Kian Nakamura-Berta came away with the final then. He'll want to come away with the final now, 2 weeks later, and set off on a charge to emulate only a couple of people who have won both cadet titles in the same season. I'm fairly sure the last person to do it, I think, was Harry Thompson. It might actually have been Taylor Barnard, my apologies, and both of those have gone on to massive things in the world of karting, having started in the British Championships. So, the racers are now putting themselves into a good frame of mind to go out for time qualifying once again. And of course, in Honda Cadet, you have to be very, very disciplined. It's the only category in the 2019 season, well, certainly here this weekend, it's the only qualifying group class of karting this weekend that has standing starts. All the others have rolling starts. Although I believe KZ2 is also standing starts this season, and they are going to be joining us from the second weekend of the British Championships for this paddock. And that is at the first round of KZ2, which is round 2 of this paddock. And that is at Rissington on the third weekend of May. Sadly, I'm not around for that particular race event. Real shame. I really wanted to be, but commitments take me to various other places over the course of the season, so I can only do a selected few. So the battle here is going to be very competitive, though, in KZ2, and you'll hear all about that when you go to Rissington a little bit later on in the season. However, here at PF International, the TKM, Honda and Bambino classes are still very much underway. Here's time qualifying for the Honda Cadets thus far after the first half of the session. Sonny Smith, Jack Plant, Oscar Toyton and Connor Duncan in the top 4 from Hayden Eldridge and Thomas Yeomans. Then Jai Lawrence and Henry N.G. Zederberg, Ewan Sharman and Jack Hobson in the top 10. The gap between them all is 0.86. Now, the second group is set to come out on track, and it's another batch of drivers, but they are all still contesting ultimate pole position. And the only way to do that is to beat your rival on aggregate times. Now, they obviously have to include all of the laps that were set just a moment ago in the first time group, but now the drivers in this second group have to match that qualifying pace and then try and find a little bit more time still. So the drivers head out onto the circuit, green flags fly, and they swarm out en masse onto the starting grids and make their way around the circuit, with the drivers all putting themselves into a very good frame of mind. Kian Nakamura-Berta is, of course, amongst them, leading seed in this Honda Cadet title. And then it is Aidan Mitchell, Ethan Simmons, Nathan Marquez, Danny Shields, Bradley Bick with his tribute Ayrton Senna lid. There's no yellow, there's just a very bright orangey red in place of it. Blake Ticehurst and Miles Turnbull, Cruz Speakman and Damian Barris-Haggett, Reese Lomax and Jamie Perrelly from Ben Rayburn and Stephen Barnes, Henry Jocelyn and Reg Hayward, the Australian talent Zico Hopkins-Collis and the Thai ace Henry Gregory, then Joe Cheek and Rylan Ekberg, Callie Clifford and Mitchell Gibbons, then Josh Rudd, Alfie Thompson and Callum Ghosh, the Latvian star Gustav Uzhukov, and then Timo and Ralf Jungling and Freddie Hull. So Timo and Ralf Jungling, the two brothers, battling away there in the same group and in the same team, of course. They are both racing in the Heinz Racing colours. So we'll see how they go when the session really kicks off and underway. Well, we're going to see some really tight battles with them this season, as plenty of drivers out there are going to be putting on a good show. So the drivers complete their outlap and now go into their first flying lap of the session. The wind is absolutely relentless on the side of the commentary box booth here as it continues to clash against the metal. But still, we continue on our way. And fair play to all of the drivers out there because they continue to squabble around. And for the record, the first lap out on the circuit goes the way of Alfie Thompson in terms of the timesheets, in front of Nathan Marquez and Danny Shields. Reese Lomax and Henry Gregory from Rylan Ekberg, Jamie Perrelli, Mitchell Gibbons, Kian Nakamura-Berta and Ethan Simmons. However, there is going to be a bit of a change as the drivers start to dial in those sector times. Fastest of all in the first sector for the first lap, that's Mitchell Gibbons of the Ambition Motorsport team. He's one of the drivers that's recently been selected for the McLaren DNA project, which is for young talent in the world of British karting, backed and supported by the McLaren Formula One team. So the drivers go through the final chicane and onto the home stretch, and we're going to see the fast flying laps come through now. How is it going to compare with the first group? We won't really see anybody, I don't think, break into that top 10 straight away. I'll shut my mouth immediately because Kian Nakamura-Berta, his first flying lap, incredibly, is a 109.63, and that is good enough to be 7th overall already. He means business this weekend. The Japanese star goes fastest in the first flying lap by 0.6 of a second compared to everybody else. Then Mitchell Gibbons is second from Ethan Simmons and Blake Ticehurst, Rylan Ekberg and Ben Rayburn. From Cruz Speakman, Jamie Perrelli, Reg Hayward and Miles Turnbull. Then it is Gregory, Shields, Bick, Thompson, Uzakov, Mitchell, Jocelyn, Rudd, Cheek, Barris Haggart, Clifford, Ralf Jungling, then Lomax, Hull, Timo Jungling, Ghosh, Hopkins, Collis, Barnes and Marquez. 4 seconds covers the whole field, but that was just the first flying lap. But if I'm Sonny Smith, I'm going to get a slightest bit worried now because Kian Nakamura-Berta's first flying lap is good enough to displace the likes of Jai Lawrence, Henry Ng Zederberg and Ewan Sharman from the first-time group instantly. He comes out of the final turn and down the home stretch, and Kian Nakamura-Berta wants a faster lap still. Can he go even faster? A 109.81. It's not faster than his previous best. Gibbons goes fastest of all now in front of Henry Gregory and Kian Nakamura-Berta. From Cruz Speakman, Ben Rayburn, Reese Lomax in 6th from Ethan Simmons, Rylan Ekberg, Timo Jungling and Josh Rudd. Now, Gibbons is 6th overall with that time, a 109.56. Gregory is now 8th overall. Kian Nakamura-Berta is now 9th overall. So 3 of them have broken into the top 10 with their second flying lap. They've got 1:45 on the clock, but Mitchell Gibbons, the Ambition Motorsport driver, is the fastest of all at present in this particular time qualifying, I should say. Fastest overall across the two groups is still Sonny Smith, and his time of a 108.93 is still very much up for grabs from the drivers. They know what to expect, but Mitchell Gibbons is the top spot at the moment in front of the Thai star Henry Gregory and the Japanese ace Kian Nakamura-Berta in 3rd. It's an Asian revolution in Honda Cadet in this time qualifying group. 2nd and 3rd, the two Asian stars. So out of the final corner and down the main straight, is there going to be another pole position run for Kian Nakamura-Berta? Mitchell Gibbons is fastest of all. Will it stay that way? Yes, it does, as Gibbons improves to a 109.29 in front of Gregory and Nakamura-Berta. Cruz Speakman comes up to 4th. Ralf Jungling comes up to 5th place. Good run from him in front of Rylan Ekberg. Then Freddie Hull and Blake Ticehurst from Ben Rayburn, Jamie Perrelli, Miles Turnbull and the Latvian Gustav Uzhukov from Bradley Bick and Stephen Barnes, Henry Jocelyn and Reese Lomax. Then Reg Hayward, Ethan Simmons, a long way down in 18th. Then the young lady, Callie Clifford. Callum Ghosh is 20th from Joe Cheek and Josh Rudd. Timo Jungling and Aidan Mitchell from Danny Shields and Damien Barris-Haggart. The Australian Zico Hopkins-Collis looking for more pace than Nathan Marquez and Alfie Thompson. So Mitchell Gibbons' improvement puts him 4th overall now as Gregory, Nakamura-Berta and Cruz Speakman are all in the top 10 overall. And that means 6 of the previous time group are still there, including the pole sitter, 2nd and 3rd, who
who are in that position overall. The checkered flag is going to come out, and I don't think anybody's going to get another time lap in. No, they're not. So this is it. This is the last chance to beat Sonny Smith's time. He may be safe and sound. They've got to find 3/10 to beat him. Over the line, the checkered flag flies. It's a 109.1 for Kia Nakamura-Berta. He goes top, but I'm not sure anyone's going to beat the time of Sonny Smith. Smith is going to have pole position, and he can breathe a sigh of relief. A massive improvement on the last lap from Callie Clifford puts her up into 11th in the time group. But Kia Nakamura-Berta is fastest in this group, but it's only good enough for 3rd overall. Sonny Smith and Jack Plant remain in the top spots in front of Nakamura-Berta and Oscar Teuten, Mitchell Gibbons and Henry Gregory, and then Connor Duncan, Hayden Eldridge, Cruz Speakman, and Tom Yeomans in the top 10 overall. In this time qualifying group, it is Kia Nakamura-Berta at the top from Mitchell Gibbons and Henry Gregory, Cruz Speakman and Ethan Simmons. Then it is Ralph Youngling and Reese Lomax ahead of Rylan Ekberg, Freddie Hull, Blake Ticehurst and Callie Clifford in 11th from Jamie Perrelly and Ben Rayburn. From Mars Turnbull, Gustav Ushukov, Bradley Bick in 16th ahead of Stephen Barnes. And then rounding out the top 20, it's Henry Jocelyn, Aidan Mitchell and Reg Hayward. From Callum Ghosh and Joe Cheek, Josh Rudd and Timo Youngling, Danny Shields and Zico Hopkins-Collis. From Damien Barris-Haggart, Alfie Thompson and Nathan Marquez. The gap is 1.77 from the front to the back of that time qualifying group. That's how tough it is in Honda Cadet. It really is exceptionally close from the front end to the back, and proof that these guys really are pushing at the limit of their potentials, and they are finding more and more time every single lap they go out. It's great to watch them grow and develop in stature as the sessions and the battles continue. So, a really good run and a fantastic qualifying session, but it's Sonny Smith who gets the overall pole position in Honda Cadet in front of Jack Plant, Kia Nakamura-Berta and Oscar Teuten in the top 4. And then it's Mitchell Gibbons and Henry Gregory in front of Connor Duncan, Hayden Eldridge, Cruz Speakman and Tom Yeomans overall top 10. And the gap between them all is less than 0.6 of a second. It is very, very close indeed as they will battle with earnest in the heats later. Of course, we are covering live radio coverage of the time qualifying sessions as well as the repêchages and finals from tomorrow. So a really exciting battle is definitely guaranteed over the course of this weekend. And we're going to see some really exciting battles from them all as they battle for supremacy. So the drivers are hoping to have a really strong season. They want as much as they can get from the weekend, of course. But every time they head out onto the circuit, they are going to be finding a lot more time, particularly for the Bambinos and the Honda Cadets. It's important to make as much use of that as possible. They've had their qualifying sessions now in those two classes, as, of course, have the junior TKMs. But the next class out on track, I don't want to mince my words when I say this, folks, but this could be the closest class in the 2019 season. The amount of drivers in the TKM Extreme category that can win races regularly, that could go for the title regularly, are absolutely unlike any other class. I mean, last year in the British Championships, there were a dozen who were competing for the title over various points of the season. And now we've had 3 or 4 more join the fray from the junior category last year, including the reigning double British junior champion, Abby Pulling, who is now a senior and going into this group. It's amazing to think just how close it's going to be. But she's not the only one in contention. You've got to look at the Open champion, Joe Stockford, from this group. Chris Whitten, the runner-up from last year. Adam Sparrow, the second runner-up. Sam Fowler, Kyle Sproat. And then the others in this particular time group are going to be Spencer Stevenson, Archie Strong, Gavin Pitt, Zach Bowen, Matthew Harris, Jack Godden, Sam Johns, Matthew Taylor, Ethan Newsham, Matthew Allnut, Christian Brierley, Aaron Lask, Theo Hesketh, Max Goldsmith, Will Lakin, Dan McKeown up from juniors, Ross Deal, Anderson Chilcott, and his first ever time on a Birolot chassis, James Ogden. So the TKM Extremes fly out onto the circuit. No waiting around for them. They've got to get on with it and push out onto the circuit as soon as humanly possible. And I noticed that all of them are now on slick tyres. A couple of hours ago, you'd have been mental to go out onto this circuit on dry tyres, but fortunately, the rain has stopped and the wind has been relentless, and that means that the drivers have been able to find a lot more grip as the slick tyres become the ultimate choice. Although I do notice that there are still a few drivers out there struggling for grip even on the slicks. But the good thing about the wind being so strong is that it just pushes the surface moisture off the racing line, and it gives a much cleaner finish to the surface. And that will make things particularly exciting for the drivers in question out on the circuit. So it's going to be a really exciting battle. Darren Wright has written in on the feed. Good luck to all the Heinz drivers and Ethan Simmons in Honda Cadet from the Riley Wright Racing team. Great to hear from that. Hello, Darren. Hello, Riley. Hope you're enjoying things from wherever you are. There's a multitude of motorsport to choose over the course of this weekend, from the top of the field to the middle of the pack, right the way down to grassroots. And we're very honoured that you've chosen us for time qualifying. We're obviously covering live coverage of all of the time qualifying sessions in the 2019 Motorsport UK British Championships, as well as the repechage and finals, so you can get a real flavour of all of the action as things have been progressing through the season. So the drivers are battling away. They want the best as they possibly can from qualifying. Oh, it looks like two of them have actually come together while battling for track position on the racetrack. Now, that's not racing, TKM Extreme, but interestingly, both Adam Sparrow and Spencer Stevenson wanted the same bit of racetrack going into the first chicane, and they actually banged bumpers as they went through, so the desperation to get on pole position has started very early on indeed, and you have to confess that that's quite a tall order for the drivers, but they will continue to battle away regardless. As up through to the chicane, a good battle is in the offing as they wheedle their way through the chicane, up towards the right-hand flick, and then up towards the hairpin once again. They will continue to battle away. So they come through the final chicane and onto the main straight. For the record, the fastest lap was Chris Whitten from Ross Deal, James Ogden, Will Lakin and Matthew Taylor of their first laps out on the circuit. But as we keep mentioning, that first lap is only the out lap. It doesn't really give us a true indication as to what the pace is, nor does the first flying lap really. That's their banker lap that they can start to build on from there. But so far so good for Ross Deal, as there is a very, very slow Gavin Pitt, who has crossed the line at barely 5 miles an hour by the look of it. I'm not sure what sort of an issue he's had, but now he's getting up to speed. But he seems to have dropped right the way to the back of the queue. It looks like he wants to run on his own. Very bizarre for Gavin Pitt. But meanwhile, at the front end of the field at the moment, it is Ross Deal, the Klassen Motorsport driver from Wales, has got to the top spot from Carl Sproat and Sam Fowler. Then Zach Bowen and Adam Sparrow, James Ogden and Dan McKeown. Then Joe Stockford, the Open champion from 2018, is in 8th position from Spencer Stevenson and Matthew Taylor. Then Goldsmith, Newsham, Chilcott, Hesketh, Allnut, Harris, Brierley, Lask and Jack Godden. Ahead of Will Lakin, Archie Strong, Chris Whitten, way down in 22nd for the moment from Sam Johns and Gavin Pitt. It looks as though we got a mechanical flag, and I'm afraid it's for Ethan Newsham. Now, what has happened to Ethan Newsham? Because he's got a problem that means he's been given the mechanical flag. So his best qualifying lap, I'm afraid, is going to be only a 1:03.15. He's not going to be very happy with that time, but he's not going to get a chance to improve. Meanwhile, Chris Whitten has gone to the top spot on a 1:02.12, and he's way back in the pack. So in terms of the road position, I should say, he's a long way back in the pack. And some of the others are now trying to gain some track position off him. Oh, hang on. We've got somebody having pulled off at the hairpin. Not entirely sure who it is. I think it might be the man who was given the mechanical flag, in fact. So we may well have a problem there for Ethan Newsham. I think the 31 has pulled his kart off the racetrack already. Or has he, actually, thinking about it? Certainly the time splits are not coming through, but that might be a transponder issue rather than a issue with the kart. I'm trying to see if anybody else has not yet come through. Actually, Matthew Harris hasn't come through. So I wonder if Matthew Harris is actually the one stopped out on the circuit, and Ethan Newsham has got an issue with his transponder, potentially, because he's come through again at the end of the lap and continued on his way. And it looks as though there's, Ethan Newsham has again been issued the warning flag, the mechanical flag, but unfortunately, pulling off to a stop is Matthew Harris, the privateer. So he's not going any further in this time group. We're in the final half minute of the session, and Dan McKeown, the former junior, has come up and got the top spot thus far, ahead of Chris Whitten now, from Sam Fowler and Matthew Allnut, James Ogden, Goldsmith, Chilcott, Taylor, Lakin, and Theo Hesketh in the top 10. Aaron Lask is 11th and Newsham is 12th. but Newsham has got a problem of some kind as he's been given the mechanical flag. And it looks like there's some debris on the back straight, actually. Something's fallen off one of the karts. Ross Steele goes through and starts another qualifying lap. Several others are not going to be able to. As the checkered flag flies now, the first one to see it is Aaron Lask in front of Anderson Chilcott. And those two are going to finish where they are. Witten goes top on a 101.42, but there are several drivers in the fray that are now going to get a second qualifying lap at the end of the session, as it were. Or certainly an additional qualifying lap. It will be their 6th lap on the circuit. But some of them are finishing with 5. And now the black flag has come out, would you believe, for Ethan Newsham. He's ignored the mechanical flag 3 laps consecutively. So now he's being issued the black flag. Now in qualifying, that is catastrophic, because essentially now they are going to give him, I would assume, for getting the black flag, they would almost certainly give him a penalty for ignoring the mechanical flag on 3 consecutive laps. But here come the drivers to complete their qualifying run. Who's going to get there to the top spot? Ross Steele can't find the top 10 even in this group. Up to the top, can anybody beat Witten? Fowler gone second, Goldsmith third, Matthew Taylor now to third in front of Theo Hesketh, Max Goldsmith and Joe Stockford, but no one can beat Chris Witten's time. A 101.42, and he is 0.28 clear of everybody else. It's a mega lap from Chris Witten. Sam Fowler is second in front of Matthew Taylor and Theo Hesketh. Then it's Max Goldsmith from Joe Stockford. Then it is Spencer Stevenson, Adam Sparrow, Carl Sproat and James Ogden from Dan McKeown and Ethan Newsham, who is under some investigation now, having ignored the mechanical flag on 3 occasions. And now basically receiving the black flag. I'm just trying to see if there's anything noticeably wrong with Ethan Newsham's kart as he comes through. I don't think it's an issue with his rear bumper, but there is definitely some problem with his kart because the stewards have called him in. So I'm not entirely sure what it is that's a difficulty with Ethan Newsham's kart. Oh, it's the chain guard, we are told. So the chain guard will have come off the kart. Now, obviously, that is quite a serious problem when it comes loose from the kart. Some drivers will tell you it doesn't make a blind bit of difference, but it certainly does on the safety aspect. So from that point of view, Ethan Newsham will have been called into the pits and obviously has ignored it 3 times and was received the black flag, but as the checkered flag came out. So now that's got to be investigated as to whether or not any further action is going to be taken. But Chris Witten on pole position in this time group from Sam Fowler and Matthew Taylor, then Theo Hesketh, Max Goldsmith, Joe Stockford and Spencer Stevenson. And rounding out the top 10, it is Adam Sparrow from Carl Sproat and James Ogden, then Dan McKeown and Ethan Newsham. Then it is Aaron Lask and Ross Steele. And then Christian Briley and Matthew Allnut in 16th. All covered by a second in the top 16. Then it is Archie Strong from Zach Bowen, Sam Johns and Anderson Chilcott, from Will Lakin, Gavin Pitt, Jack Godden and Matthew Harris. And so then after this, there'll be one final timed qualifying session, and that is time qualifying 2 with the TKM Extreme categories. And then we will be returning to the action live when we go to the repêchages tomorrow, the B finals, if you like, for the Honda Cadet, Junior TKM and TKM Extreme categories. The Bambinos won't get a repêchage because there is enough of them to make a full grid. And then each of those categories obviously having a repêchage each, the 3 of them that do. And then there are 2 finals for each class, and they will all count to championship points. So there's going to be 11 great races live on air tomorrow. Obviously, we're finishing up the Downforce radio coverage with this timed qualifying session, which is for TKM Extreme. Can anybody get to the top spot and knock Chris Witten off the rostrum? Well, there's a lot of great drivers in this particular field of categories of drivers who could bag the top spot. Joe Fowler, reigning national champion. Joe Reeves-Smith, 4th seed from 2018. Then Lee Whittingham, the Frenchman, Tony Kazugel, Harry Moore and Glenn Guest. Harry Moore, of course, a former champion. Glenn Guest, Austin Monday, James Buckingham, Leanna Page, Megan Lawson, 2 very fast women there. Isaac Marsh and Adam Jones, Ryan Cole, the reigning double British junior champion. Abby Pulling is out there, so she's going to be one to watch. Dan Burgess and James Pashley are in the mix. Owain Rosser and Alexander Page. Then the 4th female in this time group alone, Maria Bright, Michael Cornell and Cristiano Nardone And then it is Alexander Lemon, Kai Springfield, and Lewis Wadley. An amazing group of drivers in this time group alone, and they're all bidding for Chris Whitten's time of a 1:01.42. So a minute 1.42 is the time to go for here at PF International, with its fast-flowing circuit and its very tight hairpin sections. We're going to see some truly amazing scraps around the circuit from these guys as they will battle for supremacy. And we're going to see some really exciting dynamics from them all as they race for the top spot. We're going to see some truly brilliant racing over the course of this weekend. So let's see what happens. It's going to be a really exciting battle. And we will see some absolutely fantastic battles for this pole position as well as they come through to complete the first lap. As we've mentioned before, this first lap out on the circuit is not really indicative of the full grid that we're going to see from them all. So we'll get an idea and understanding of that when we get to the main event. So obviously the first flying lap has been completed. For the record, that first flying lap is topped by the reigning champion, Joe Fowler, on the top spot. From Joe Reeve-Smith and Ryan Cole, Lee Whittingham, Owain Rosser and James Pashley. Then Abby Pulling and Maria Bright, and Dan Burgess and Leanna Page. From Isaac Marsh and Glenn Guest, Lewis Wadley and Kai Springfield. From Page, Moore, Kazugel, Jones, Nardone, Buckingham, Lawson, Monday, Cornell and Lemon. But this is, of course, the first major flying lap they will do, and across the line, straight to the top goes Lee Whittingham. No major surprises, a 1:03.56. They need a 1:01 to go for pole position. Cole goes fastest, Moore's just slightly off. Abby Pulling gets a 1:03.28. And Maria Bright goes up into fourth place on a 1:03.55. Up to the top spot now goes Lewis Wadley on a 1:03.04. 1.6 away from the ultimate pole position set by Chris Whitten in that previous session. But Whitten had an amazing advantage over Sam Fowler, who put in a 1:01.70 in that session. So he's got 0.28 on the rest of the field after what was a very tight battle for pole position in the first time group. Can anybody get near a 1:01.42 in this second and third time lap? We'll get a clearer indication of whether it's possible or not. But several drivers are obviously getting themselves dialed up for a good lap. Bit of a hiccup there for one of them, namely the 25 of, now who is that struggling? James Buckingham, the privateer. But over the line, the drivers come to get another fast lap in. Lee Whittingham goes fifth. Up to the top spot goes Joe Reeve-Smith on a 1:02.8. A 1:02.1 now for Ryan Cole. Now, that's still not quite good enough to go ultimate top 10, because you need to be in the 1:01s to be in the top 10. There's only half a second between the top 10 from the previous time group. So Alex Page is now the top spot on a 1:02.01, but that's not going to be good enough to get into the overall top 10. So they need to keep making progress. Springfield is now up to second. Good work from Kai Springfield. And Cole, Joe Fowler, Lewis Wadley, Owain Rosser, Kazugel, Burgess, Bright and Pashley. Then it's Cristiano Nardone from Glenn Guest and Abby Pulling. Then Austin Monday and Joe Reeve-Smith, Isaac Marsh and Adam Jones, Michael Cornell, Whittingham, Moore, Lawson, Page, Lemon and Buckingham. But these two qualifying laps coming up are going to be the ones that will tell. Can anybody get close to Chris Whitten? Whitten will be sat on the sidelines thinking, I think 61.42 is doable. I don't think anybody's going to beat that. But we'll see as they come down the main straight this time. This is where we're going to see a real challenge for pole position. Over the line goes Whittingham. Reeve-Smith can only be 8th at the moment. Ryan Cole goes top, and he's on a 1:01.85. Now that puts him into 7th overall, because now James Pashley goes faster. A 1:01.84. Kai Springfield now comes up to 3rd. Abby Pulling comes up to 4th position in just a whisker in front of Tony Kazugel. So now we're into the overall top 10. But James Pashley's time, top of the group, is only good enough for 6th at the moment. A 1:01.84. They're still 0.4 of a second away from Whitten's ultimate best in the first time qualifying group. So they've only got, by my math, 2 laps left of qualifying to get close to Whitten's mark. James Pashley leads the time group from Springfield, Cole, Pulling, Kazugel, Cornell, Page, Joe Fowler, Owain Rosser and Lewis Wadley in the top 10. This is going to be such a competitive season in TKM Extreme. It's so tight at the top. Even the top 8 of this time qualifying group are covered by less than 0.2 of a second. That is amazing. And have come across the line now to get the next lap in. What is Joe Reeve-Smith going to do? It's not even good enough for the top 10. Ryan Cole goes top. A 101.66. That's second overall. Harry Moore goes second in the time group. That's third overall. No, it isn't. My apologies. It's fourth. Austin Monday now goes fastest in the group. A 101.56. We're now within 0.14 of Witten's time. So Austin Monday is the fastest of the section. But in terms of overall qualifying, the time runs down to 0 now. This lap is the one that's got to count. It's an absolute knife edge for the drivers. They've got to find that secret ingredient to get another fast lap in. Interestingly, Abby Powler and the reigning champion Joe Fowler are around the circuit together. So Abby Pulling and Joe Fowler, the two TKM champions from last year, Junior versus Extreme, are now bagging fast laps in together. But is anybody going to topple Austin Monday from the top spot? And more importantly, can anybody beat Chris Whitten from the very front of the grid? The time to beat is a 101.42. Is anybody going to get there? Ryan Cole remains second. Austin Monday bails out after a mistake in the second sector. Rosser up to third. Moore up to fourth place. Nardoni, Springfield up to sixth now in front of Pashley and Wadley. What about Pulling outside the top 10 of the group? Joe Fowler even slower. Michael Cornell comes up to second overall on a 101.59, but Chris Whitten remains overall fastest on a 101.42 with Austin Monday, Michael Cornell, Ryan Cole, and Owain Rosser breaking into the top 5 overall. Then in 6th place overall is Sam Fowler, just a whisker in front of Harry Moore, who is 5th in this time session. Then it is Taylor and Hesketh from the previous time group. An overall top 10, 6th in this session, Cristiano Nardone. Then it's Kai Springfield, 7th in the time group here from James Pashley and Lewis Wadley. Alex Page rounds out the time quality 2, top 10. Abby Pulling and Tony Kazugel, Joe Fowler and Lee Whittingham from Maria Bright and Glenn Guest, Adam Jones and Megan Lawson, Joe Reeve-Smith, Dan Burgess from Leanna Page, and that's all 21 of them in that session, covered by less than a second. Then Isaac Marsh, James Buckingham and Alex Lemon. It's very close indeed in TKM Extreme, as it was last year. We expected it would be that tight, but now we've got a topsy-turvy grid and an incredible weekend of action to come. The Downforce radio coverage and circuit commentary will return when we get to the repêchages and finals tomorrow. We'll let the drivers battle away for the heats, but what an exceptional weekend it's going to be for this first weekend of the TKM Honda and Bambino category season. It really is going to be exciting stuff, and I can't wait to see what's coming up.
Hi, I'm Tom Ingham and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Jake Villeneuve. You're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Bruno Senna. You're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Chris Hoy, and you're listening to Downforce Radio.
Hi, I'm Landon Norris, and you're listening to Downforce Radio.